Buying a new car is a big financial commitment. With vehicle prices, loan payments, insurance, and maintenance costs all climbing, the total price of owning that new vehicle can rival the cost of housing for some families. In this episode, we'll talk with the editors at Consumer Reports about their top picks for 2026. These cars, trucks, and SUVs are the cream of the crop. Also, how to make sure you really like the car you buy, and what to consider before buying a used vehicle. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at Checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at Checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on Checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
When it comes to buying a new car, you've got choices. Lots and lots and lots of choices. In fact, there are more than 260 cars, trucks, and SUVs on the market today. Many of them are good, but only 10 make Consumer Reports' annual top picks list. Each earned high marks for road performance, predicted reliability, owner satisfaction, and safety. Here to talk about the winners and a few losers is the deputy editor at Consumer Reports Autos, John Lincov. Hi, John.
Hi, Herb. How are you?
Great. It's always good talking to you. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
You and I have been discussing cars for decades, literally decades, and it's fair to say the class of 2026 is the best ever?
It certainly is. I mean, cars today are fantastic. So to be the cream of the crop, you have to be really, really special.
I mentioned the factors that go into choosing the top picks. Road performance is both at the test track in Connecticut and on the road, right? Your drivers drive these things.
That's correct. We drive every vehicle 2,000 miles even before we start testing them. And then when we test them, we do tests on the track. We do tests on public roads, such as fuel economy. I mean, just getting a general sense of road handling, ride conditions, etc.
And for predicted reliability and satisfaction, that's based on your subscriber survey.
That's correct. We send every member a link to fill out our survey, and we ask them about their experiences, both how well the car performed reliability-wise, but also if they would buy it again, all things considered. And we have data on more than 380,000 vehicles this year, and we're able to tell you how reliable a new car should be. But we could also go back 20 years and tell you how reliable a used car actually is.
So 2 of those vehicles are mine because I fill out the survey every year. Just want to let you know.
That's fantastic. We appreciate that. Thank you.
So I noticed that for the first time, all 10 top pick vehicles are available as hybrids or electrics. And as you note in the auto issue, buyers can't go wrong with either version, but the hybrid option tends to have several advantages.
Yeah, so what we've seen in a lot of our recent testing is that not only do hybrids give better fuel economy than their gas-only counterparts. So if you're looking at a Honda Civic and a Honda Civic Hybrid, for example, but the hybrid version also tends to perform better in our road tests. So they tend to be quicker. They tend to have smoother transitions as they shift and they accelerate. Generally, the electric drive fills in the gaps of a small engine. So for fuel economy, so many manufacturers are going with small 4 cylinders, but they tend to be gutless at times. The hybrid fills that in, so you have consistent acceleration and you also have performance. You're no longer left in the dust, so to speak.
All right, let's talk about the winners. No real surprise that the top small car was the Honda Civic. Everybody knows the Civic.
That's right. Civic, decades and decades of Civics, very reliable, great fuel economy.
And the Toyota Camry is often a top pick, which is why I have 2 of them. That's the top midsize car this year.
That's right. And Toyota, when they redesigned this version of the Camry, they made all versions hybrid. So no matter what you buy, you're getting a hybrid powertrain to start.
Subaru tends to do very well in your testing, and the top subcompact SUV was the Subaru Crosstrek.
It was redesigned and freshened. It has a new engine, both a hybrid engine, but as well as a 180 horsepower 4-cylinder. Both are fuel efficient. The hybrid is a little more powerful and gets great fuel economy.
Subaru also won the top compact SUV category with its Forester.
Yeah, so this is a really kind of big news. The Forester's always been a top pick or a perennial top pick in the sense of great fuel economy, very good visibility, very good ride comfort. But now they use a Toyota-sourced hybrid powertrain. So it has all-wheel drive system. It's mechanical, so it's still the same Subaru system, but it gets really, really, really good fuel economy. So it makes the SUV even more desirable than the regular version, which in itself is a great vehicle.
You named the Toyota Grand Highlander the top midsize SUV.
Yep, so the Grand Highlander is a larger version of the regular Highlander, which is being redesigned as an electric only. And it makes sense because the Grand Highlander has been incredibly popular, first of all. It outsells the regular Highlander by a large number. It's a very smooth drive vehicle. It has great cargo room, great passenger room, and a 245 horsepower hybrid powertrain, which gives it almost like small SUV fuel economy. So a really perfect choice for families.
You have two luxury SUV categories. Let's start with the top luxury compact SUV, and that's the Lexus NX.
So it's another Toyota product, this time from their luxury market. And the NX is a small or compact luxury SUV. They have a new infotainment system, which is touchscreen based. So they got rid of the old controller, which was really annoying to use. Great fuel economy. So the all-wheel drive hybrid version that we tested got 38 miles per gallon overall, which is much better than the gas-powered one. There's also a plug-in hybrid electric version that can go 37 miles on electric power only. But financially, it only makes sense if you plug it in all the time and drive on electric power as much as possible.
And the top luxury midsize SUV is a BMW X5.
Yeah, so the X5 is a stellar vehicle. It's the best luxury SUV that we've ever tested. Very luxurious, well-rounded, roomy, very quick. Not only does it get 23 miles per gallon overall, but it has performance that's sports car-like. And there's also a plug-in hybrid version that can go 39 miles on electric-only range. Once that runs out, you get about 21 miles per gallon. Still very impressive for the performance and size of the vehicle.
3 more categories to go. The top small pickup is the Ford Maverick.
Ford really kind of hit it out of the ballpark with the Maverick. It's a small pickup truck. It's what people have been asking for a while. Has a good ride, a very good powertrain. The 250 horsepower turbocharged 4-cylinder gets 23 miles per gallon overall, but we really like the hybrid, 37 miles per gallon overall. Very smooth ride, very smooth transition from gas to electric. And, it could just do everything you need. Haul stuff to the junkyard or drive the family around because it seats 4 people very comfortably.
Another Ford was named the top full-size pickup, and that's the F-150.
Yeah, so the F-150 is a standout because it really improved its reliability. Previous year, a number of the models were among the least reliable. Ford really got it together. Their turbo V6 is a gem with lots of low-end power for towing and a very smooth transmission. Big V8, traditional V8 with 400 horsepower is still available, but the V6 hybrid is really the sweet spot. It's a turbocharged engine. It has brawn and can really pull instead of being just a fuel miser. It still gets about 19 miles per gallon, which is good for a pickup truck, but it has a lot of torque, 570 foot-pounds of torque.
And the final category is top electric vehicle. I remember when the winner of this was always, year after year, the Prius. This year it's the Tesla Model Y after getting some improvements for reliability.
Yeah, so Tesla's really turned around on its reliability for the Model Y and even the Model 3 sedan. But the Model Y stands out just because it has really great range. It's been refreshed with the model year, so it has thicker glass, a better ride. It's more quiet inside. It has more premium materials as well. It still has really frustrating to use controls. Everything's through the screen, and that could be distracting. But as far as reliability and performance, it is top in the class.
John, whether it's for a car or a washing machine, I always look at CR's reliability ratings before making a big purchase. And that's an important factor to consider when buying a car. The 2026 ratings are based on data from about, as you said, 380,000 vehicles from model years 2000 to 2025 owned by CR members. Once again this year, Lexus, Subaru, and Toyota are at the top of the reliability list. Toyota number 1, Subaru number 2, and Lexus number 3. What are these 3 car makers doing that makes their vehicles so reliable?
Well, one of the things is that they really make incremental changes. So think about, for example, years and years, Toyota made just a 3.5 liter V6, and so many vehicles had that. So the reason they have strong used car reliability, for example, is because those V6 engines are very, very reliable. But they keep the platforms the same. They do a lot of platform sharing in the sense of the RAV4 to the Lexus NX. The Lexus RX is the same as a Toyota Highlander, and so on. So they're not making changes across every model that has something different, a different transmission, a different engine, a different whatever. Very consistent use of the same parts. That's really the same as Subaru also. They have a similar platform from everything and a really small assortment of engines, transmissions, etc. And doing that consistently year over year, using the same parts and making incremental changes is really the way to build reliability. The manufacturers at the other end of our list are constantly making changes and updates and such, and they're never really getting the problems worked out while they're introducing something new.
And the bottom 5, and they tend to be in this slot most years, Chrysler, GMC, Jeep, Ram, and at the bottom, Rivian. So Rivian's the new electric entry. It's having problems, and Chrysler and GMC tend to be there all the time, unfortunately. Yeah,
the thing we see with Rivian is that right now, they're kind of where Tesla was when Tesla first started building vehicles. The electric powertrain works very well, almost like a powertrain company. The Rivian has some battery issues and such, but they get a lot of that stuff right. What they don't get right is build quality. They're not getting right, assembly issues. They're not getting right IT issues like the infotainment screen and such. I mean, anecdotally, one of our Rivians had a huge water leak, for example, when we first bought it. That's not in our data, but that's the type of thing you're seeing because it's still kind of a startup. Look how long it's taken Tesla to start becoming top pick. Look how long it's taken them to start having year over year of good reliability. It's hard to build a car.
But Chrysler is a legacy manufacturer, and it still winds up at the bottom year after year.
And that's certainly the case. So one of the things that's hurting Jeep, for example, is that, first of all, they have fewer vehicles. All of a sudden, Chrysler has, a much pared back line of vehicles, whether it's Ram, Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep. So that hurts when you have a problem in a powertrain that's shared across a line. Just like it could work with Toyota and Lexus when it's good, when it's bad, it can hurt your entire line. So they have few vehicles that are really good. They got rid of their 300, for example, from Chrysler, which was a strong vehicle. Another issue that you see with Jeep is that they introduced a new powertrain with their Grand Cherokee. They have a plug-in hybrid. They also use that powertrain in the Jeep Wrangler, for example. That's been problematic. It's a new powertrain. Those tend to have issues. So that's brought their scores down as well. So taking out old legacy strong performers and replacing them with new technology, that's really kind of setting them up for disaster.
Before we let you go, let's look ahead a little bit. The new Chevy Bolt is about to hit the market, all electric and at quite a nice price point.
So the Chevy Bolt is projected to be in the high $20,000 to low $30,000 price range, where it's going to compete against maybe one other EV, which is the Nissan Leaf. So it's a right size, sort of like, a little tall crossover. The previous Bolt, when it went to the EUV, when it was a little bigger and a little more normal, it was really a good vehicle and people liked it a lot. It's just that Chevy had to change over to a new platform. So we are looking forward to seeing it when it arrives sometime this year. But, if you could get it under $30,000 as an EV, that really portends well for the brand.
Yeah, it might be an electric vehicle that people could afford without having to use the tax credit that's now gone because the price point is so right.
Exactly. And you won't have to worry about the dealer, having to drop down the price there, but they're going to hit you on the interest rate or something like that. There don't have to be as many games played because it's just an attractive price, well under the average price of a new car, which has always been hovering around $50,000 in the last, 6 months or so.
John Lincov is a deputy editor at Consumer Reports Autos. John, always fun talking to you. Thank you so much.
Herb, my pleasure. Anytime. Thank you.
The average new car buyer in America keeps their car for about 8 years, so you'd better like what you're about to buy. Straight ahead, how to make the right choice for your needs and your budget. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and this is Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
Checkbook has customer ratings and evaluations for auto repair shops in these 7 metro areas: Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis-St. Paul, and Washington, D.C. If you live in or around one of these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Get a free 30-day subscription to all our ratings by going to checkbook.org/Consumerpedia.
Talk about sticker shock. In January, the average new car buyer paid about $49,200 for their vehicle, according to the latest figures from Kelley Blue Book. So how do you decide what you want and what you can afford? Here to help with that is Consumer Reports senior autos reporter Keith Berry. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Herb.
Nice to talk to you again. Always enjoy doing that.
Likewise.
For our listeners, if you haven't purchased a car in a few years, expect to be surprised at what you see on the lot. Some sedans, but mostly SUVs. Keith, as you noted in your article, automakers are focused on luxury models. The $20,000 sedan is in the rearview mirror. Why the change?
Yeah, it's a few reasons. I mean, one of the reasons is that automakers realized they could make more money by selling cars that were loaded with more features. Those bare bones vehicles had smaller margins, and, those buyers could be served by the used car market is what the automakers seemed to think. And as a result, we started to see some higher trim levels, especially during early COVID era production constraints hitting the market.
So it's more focused on revenue as opposed to volume.
It seems that's been the case at least for a little while. There's been a lot of volatility in the auto market, so these sure things, loaded SUVs and pickup trucks that were definitely profitable and offsetting some of the development costs of EVs and hybrids, that's what's available for consumers.
As far as engines, more hybrid models available, and despite the Trump administration's killing the $7,500 EV tax credit, electric models are still on the lot.
There definitely are still EVs on the market. The rest of the world is going electric. So automakers are still doing that, development and research. You're not going to find necessarily the greatest deals that are subsidized, but there are still vehicles out there. But for most folks, a hybrid, if you remember the early days of hybrids being small cars that were only about fuel efficiency, now everything is getting the hybrid treatment. So if you're looking for everything from that tiny car all the way up to a 3-row SUV or a full-size pickup truck, you're going to find hybrid options available.
Because they get great mileage and you don't have to worry about finding a charging station.
Exactly. And also, we tend to find, when we ask our readers, they tell us they're more reliable. And then when we test them at our test track, because we buy and test, all the cars that we review, we love these hybrids because they actually tend to perform better. That little bit of electric shove off the line gives you a little sportier performance, even in that family SUV. And it gives you more power and in some cases, more towing capacity.
So let's run down the three major categories of vehicles and what people should consider with each. And you did an article about this for the Auto Issue. So let's start with the pros and the cons of an SUV.
Absolutely. An SUV, if you've looked around in a parking lot lately, they're everywhere, but they're mostly not these sort of boxy. If you remember the original SUVs, the Wagoneers, the Blazer, the Bronco of the 80s and 90s, these are car-based vehicles. So they're essentially tall cars, usually with all-wheel drive available, and a large cargo area. And those are basically the pros, is that you sit high up. A lot of people find them easier to get in and out of. And if you're carrying a lot of stuff, if it's a stroller, if you have a big dog, if you need a third row, they're pretty much the best option out there.
And the cons?
Well, despite the fact that you sit higher off the road, we find that in a lot of SUVs, depending upon the design, you actually have worse visibility right in front of you. So it could make things like parking cameras or automatic emergency braking when you're, in that parking situation, a little more important. They tend to also get worse fuel economy than a sedan. The bigger the vehicle, and this goes for all big vehicles, the worse your braking and handling performance is going to be. So you might not be able to avoid a collision that you might be able to avoid in a more nimble vehicle.
You suggest a few features to look for.
Yeah, so that surround view camera, especially in these modern cars where visibility out the back and sides isn't great, that surround view camera, it used to feel like kind of a luxury, sort of a Jetsons futuristic sort of thing. But now it can show you how close your tires are getting to the curb. It can show you exactly where the corners of the vehicle are. A powered liftgate, too. I mean, I don't know about you, but some of these are very tall and very heavy lift gates. And just being able to press a button to close it as opposed to having to pull it down. If you've ever had rotator cuff surgery or you've ever had, anything like that, if you're not super tall, very helpful.
And what about the engine, gas, hybrid, or EV?
I definitely think hybrid is the way to go here, especially with a big vehicle. We've seen 3-row SUVs get fuel economy in the mid-30s. And that's incredible considering a few years ago, high teens was a big deal from some of these vehicles. So absolutely, hybrid's the way to go.
Next category is sedan or sports car. Again, the pros and the cons.
Well, it's kind of interesting, to think of a sedan these days. They're not always, a car with a trunk on the back. There's also this kind of interesting new category of car, which is usually a front-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive, sort of hatchback, kind of tall. It looks like an SUV from a distance, but in reality, it's kind of like a sedan wearing a backpack. And that's a car like, say, the Chevy Trax or the Hyundai Venue. It's an interesting new category that fits along there that if you want a different type of cargo carrying capacity, may be an option. The pros of a sedan, though, and of those kind of tall hatchbacks, they tend to be a lot less expensive than anything else out there. And they tend to get better fuel economy.
And the cons?
Well, they're lower to the ground, so you might not be able to see around the car next to you when you're pulling out into traffic. And also, they can be a little harder to pull yourself up out of. They're easier to fall down into, but, we hear from our testers that, sometimes they're a little difficult. And we use them all the time with various family members and driving and doing all of our regular errands and, taking a kid out of the car seat in the back seat or getting in and out. It can be a little more difficult.
And we don't really have to discuss sports cars because if you're buying one, we know why you're buying one.
And you know why you're buying one, and you know what you want. Exactly.
Right. But for the sedan, what features would you suggest we look for?
Well, I think you can get many sedans, if not all sedans, with all-wheel drive. And you don't have to get an SUV in order to get all-wheel drive. Not all sedans have rear seats that fold down, and that makes it easier to, get these larger items into a vehicle. If you're carrying, skis or, flat pack furniture from IKEA, it fits more easily in a sedan as long as you can fold down those seats.
And the engine type?
Well, we love the hybrids here, and, there are some that are only available as hybrids, but there are a lot of great electric sedans and very good deals on them. There are some which can get 300 or more miles on a charge. So if you're looking for an EV, consider a sedan, but, a hybrid's always a good choice there too.
And let's finish up with the pickup truck, pros and cons, other than you better have a big garage.
Exactly. Measure first. We hear all the time about folks who they get it home and they realize it doesn't fit. But nothing can tow and haul and carry like a pickup truck. If you know you need a pickup truck, there really aren't that many other vehicles out there that can do the same thing. So it's kind of like the sports car. If you know you need it, it's the vehicle for you. At the same time, a lot of newer pickup trucks are just as comfortable to drive. They don't drive like a truck, as the saying goes. They drive like a family sedan. They're comfortable. They're well appointed inside. They're luxurious. So you can basically get nearly all the pros of every other type of vehicle and in a vehicle that can do something that no other vehicle can.
Any specific features to look for with a truck?
You have to choose the cab type and the bed size that you want. So you need to know whether you want 4 doors, 2 doors, whether you want seating for the whole family, the whole crew, or just that one small seat up front. You need to know whether you're going with a long bed or a short bed. And also, if you're going to tow, you really need to sit down with the salesperson and figure out the exact configuration of the truck you're going to buy, because the differences can be very great between towing packages on pickup trucks.
And what about the engine? Makes a big difference with trucks more than it does with some other vehicles.
It does. There are some electric trucks out there. I know one was kind of famously recently discontinued. And, I think one of the reasons why is because towing is an issue with an electric vehicle. Your range drops the more you're towing. Gas, sometimes even diesel, depending upon if you're really doing some, heavy duty towing. Gas for your full-size pickup truck. The good news is that if you're just sort of a weekend warrior and you like to haul, furniture and you go antiquing or you bring home mulch, there are hybrid pickup trucks like that Ford Maverick hybrid that are small, they're maneuverable, and they get great gas mileage, and they're a lot easier to drive. Even as good as full-size trucks are, they're easier to live with.
Keith, before we let you go, with all your experience writing about car buying, give us a tip or two that you'd like to share.
Absolutely. My tips all come down to when you get to the dealership. And just remember, never fall in love with a car. There's always going to be another one there. And, the dealers count on you falling in love with that vehicle that's there and just getting carried along. And all of a sudden you're driving home and thinking, I paid how much? So, draw out the process. Don't rush into things when you're buying a vehicle. You set the pace, not the salesperson, not the car. Take your time, get the car you really want, and get the deal you really want.
Great advice. Keith Berry is Senior Autos Reporter at Consumer Reports. Keith, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Herb. Thanks so much, and drive safe.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. All major automakers build some of their cars in America. Here are Consumer Reports' top 10 scoring models assembled in America. The BMW X5, Chevrolet Corvette, Honda Passport, Subaru Forester Hybrid, starting in the spring of 2026, Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid, Toyota Camry, Tesla Model Y, Honda Accord Hybrid, Subaru Forester, and the BMW X7.
Let's face it, some people can't afford to buy a new car. Some don't want to spend all that money on one. For them, a used set of wheels is the way to go. If you plan to go this route, you need to make sure you're not buying someone else's problem or getting taken for a ride by a shady used car dealer. Here to help with that, Consumer Reports Autos reporter Stef Schrader. Hiya, Stef. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
So no question, buying used is a great way to save a ton of money, right?
Average new car prices right now, they've been hovering around $50,000 for the last few years, but they can lose about 30% of that value in the first couple years. And the average used cost is just shy of $30K.
That's a lot less than a new car.
Yeah. The one catch is you need to consider the total cost. Used car financing is generally more expensive, an average of 7% APR new versus 12% used. And you also have to consider maintenance costs.
In the annual auto issue, Consumer Reports published a list of the best and the worst used cars, and it really shows that buyers need to do their homework if they want to find a safe, reliable used car. Every vehicle on the lot is not the same when it comes to safety and reliability.
That's right. On consumerreports.org, you can drill down on specific kinds of stats, and you can look at things like reliability and satisfaction. Do people actually like this car once they buy it? And how much of a problem have they had with it?
Electric vehicles tend to depreciate rather quickly, so the prices on a used EV are pretty good.
Yeah.
Any tips for someone who wants to buy a used EV and maybe afraid of the battery life?
We give this advice to everyone. It's best to have an independent mechanic take a look at the car before you buy it. And this is especially true for EVs because they can test the big battery to see how much life is left. And they can also find any other issues that may have been missed. EVs particularly can be a great deal right now because they kind of overbuilt for the demand. So you have a lot of them now coming off lease as well. A lot of people leased EVs because of the depreciation. But you also want to make sure that you're getting a good one. You know, Hyundai and Kia makes a lot of really nice to use EVs that we like to drive, but they're also notorious for having a major component that fails and it's been recalled. It's always good to check open recalls if you're looking for not just an EV, but any car. Some of those cars have had major components replaced, and you can look that up by the VIN number, license plate. You probably want to look for completed recalls as well. Some Chevrolet Bolts have had their entire battery replaced. So the battery is actually newer than the rest of the car, making it kind of a good deal.
Obviously, you want to test drive any used vehicle you're thinking of buying, but as you just mentioned a second ago, you have to get it inspected by an independent mechanic prior to the sale. That mechanic can really spot things you may not spot just looking at the vehicle or even driving it.
That's correct. Because when you're looking at a used car, you're also buying any problems it may have. And what you save on the initial cost might come back to bite you later with expensive repairs and such. And again, you want to look for an independent mechanic that keeps the seller honest, even if the seller is a dealer. And if you're buying something like a certified pre-owned car that comes with a warranty, you need to understand what is covered in that warranty. So if something isn't, that's your problem now.
Well, I suggest to people all the time when they ask that they get it inspected, even if it is a certified used vehicle, because if there's problems and it's going to be in the shop, you don't want to deal with that. It'd be better to find it out before you bought that car. So my advice to people is get it inspected no matter what. Spend a couple of $100 and save yourself a lot of problems down the road.
Yeah.
We always advise people to check vehicles' history reports, as you said earlier, such as with Carfax, but that isn't perfect because some things like an accident may not be reported to insurance, so it would never show up, and a mechanic would find those hidden problems, right?
Yeah, I know every time there's a natural disaster, there's usually a glut of flooded cars that aren't reported as flooded, but they show up with major corrosion issues or condensation in things like headlights and gauge pods.
Absolutely, and they can clean them up and make them look real nice. Here's something a lot of people don't know. It's legal for a used car dealer to sell a vehicle with an open or unrepaired safety recall. New car dealers can't do it, but used car dealers can. So we need to check that VIN number to make sure it doesn't have an open recall, as you mentioned earlier. We do that at the NHTSA website, right?
Yep, nhtsa.gov/recalls. And you can go by either the VIN, if you have it, or the license plate number.
Before we let you go, Steph, one or two tips you want to share with people who are in the used car market?
Yeah, always shop around. And that's both for the vehicle as well as the loan if you're financing the vehicle. Especially with financing, you want to get a good offer before you go and negotiate with a dealer. That gives you some leverage to negotiate a better deal. And you want to consider kind of that whole price. Don't get wooed by lower payments per month if you're going to be locked into this thing and end up paying more than the car is worth.
Steph, thank you so much for talking to us. Stef Schrader is a auto reporter at Consumer Reports.
Thanks for having me.
Before we go, a few related episodes you might want to check out. Number 83, tips for buying a new, used, or electric car. Number 56, a crash course on auto insurance. And number 21, Auto Glass Class, how to get repairs and replacements. And with that, we're out of time. I hope you'll rate this episode. It's really helpful. And follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Here's another way you can support this show. Follow us at Consumerpedia on Facebook and Instagram, at Consumerpedia.org on Blue Sky, and at My Consumerpedia on X. You can find me at consumerman.com. I'm Herb Weisbaum, always looking out for you. Until next time, be smart and shop wisely.
Consumerpedia is a public service of Checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/Consumerpedia. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.